So, guys, I thought this was interesting with free agency coming up. The NFLPA releasing a first ever team report cards based on surveying 1,300 players with the full rankings. We're going to kind of do a quick breakdown and then I'm going to give you my thoughts. Was I surprised on where any of these franchises were ranked? The Vikings were the number one team in terms of total football facilities, staff, and overall treatment of players, followed by the Dolphins and then the Raiders. And you can just kind of see the bottom three, the Commanders coming in last place. I'm sure part of that is the horrible stadium. The Cardinals at 31, which is pretty remarkable considering their stadium just hosted the Super Bowl. And then the Chargers at number 30. And we're just going to kind of go down the list on the overall grades. This is from, I took this off of like the NFLPA website or whatever, just the overall treatment of the families. That was the first category. The Cowboys, the only team to get an A+. So congratulations to Jerry Jones. He's a big family man. Carolina Panthers get an A. Minnesota gets an A. Buffalo with an A-. The Colts with a B+. Seahawks with a B+. And the Giants with a B+. And then the teams that treat the families the worst, the Commanders and Dan Snyder. You know, I think he's more focused on the issues he's having with selling that team and stuff. But yeah, we know how bad of a situation it is in Washington. They have the combination of an extremely unliked owner and terrible football facilities, and it's just a deadly combo. And obviously, they're going to come in last place on all these lists. Cincinnati also got an F for treatment of families. Jacksonville gets an F. The Cardinals get an F. Chargers with a D-, Steelers with a D-, and the Buccaneers with a D+. Moving to overall team nutrition. So I guess it's impossible to get an A+ for nutrition, or no team ended up with an A+. Miami, Philadelphia, Green Bay, and the Cowboys all got A's. Vegas, San Francisco, and Minnesota all with A-. And then for the worst teams in terms of nutrition, Cincinnati gets an F-. I mean, what are they giving these guys after practice? McDonald's? Are they telling them to go to the McDonald's dollar menu or something? Go get a Shamrock Shake. Is the Shamrock Shake coming out soon? You would think like St. Patrick's Day or something like that. You know what? I really don't like mint, personally, with ice cream. But Arizona with an F-. New Orleans gets an F-. And then the Chargers, who are at the bottom. We're kind of seeing the same teams at the bottom. Arizona, the Chargers, especially those two. Detroit with a D-. Jacksonville. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me that Jacksonville doesn't grade out well on many of these lists. I mean, they had Urban frickin' Meyer last year. And then Tampa Bay with a D. The overall weight room experience, you would figure the newer stadiums should all be A+, right? But the Buffalo Bills, who have one of the most oldest stadiums that's about to be replaced, they get an A+. The Vikings get an A, or excuse me, the Raiders get an A+. The Miami Dolphins get an A+. Dallas an A+. The Chicago Bears, Houston, and Minnesota all with A's. And then the worst weight rooms, Arizona, the only one to get an F, they actually get an F-. So they might just have, 5-pound weights. And I mean, how do you get an F- for a weight room if you're an NFL team? I'd like to see a picture of it. I mean, come on. Are we really if you show me the Arizona Cardinals a picture of their weight room, are we really going to sit here and say it's an F-? I guess maybe in terms of NFL standards, but New England gets a D, Jacksonville with a D+, the Browns with a D+, Chargers a C-, Atlanta a C-, and the Rams get a C. So I guess SoFi didn't build a good enough weight room. Strength staff, a lot of teams with an A+. All of these teams getting an A+ in terms of the strength staff. Browns, Rams, Commanders, Eagles, Vikings, Bills, Raiders, Dolphins, Cowboys. All those teams got an A+. And then really only two teams that have bad strength staffs. I don't know what's going on in Baltimore, but they got an F-. The Atlanta Falcons get a D-, and then pretty much everyone else does okay. The Jets with a B. So that's a weird one. only 2 teams, I guess, did bad. Theoretically, only 1 team failed because technically a D- is a passing grade, I believe. Although I don't know, I don't really remember school that well. If you get a D-, I think it's just an F you fail. If you get D's, you can actually pass, right? I think that's what it is. But yeah, what are the Ravens doing to get an F- when basically everyone else gets a B or an A? I have no clue on that one. The training room, the Bears get an A+ for their training room. Minnesota, Miami, both with A+. So Miami as well gets kind of a shout out. Seems like they're grading out well on a lot of this stuff. Vegas grading out very well. I've seen the Giants towards the top of the lists. Browns with a B+, Bills with a B+. And then the worst training rooms, Arizona Cardinals, the Chargers, the Commanders, all with F-. Kind of shocking with the Chargers there. I mean, they moved, they got a new stadium. I mean, where's their training room located? I mean, how do the Chargers have a horrible training room, but, they play in the same stadium as the Rams? Where are the Rams at? Maybe it's due to the staff. I don't know. Jaguars get a D-, Steelers get a D-, Cincy gets a D-, Kansas City gets a D+. And then, this is the training staff, so I guess they're separate categories. The Rams have an A+ training staff. Philadelphia, Carolina, Indianapolis, and Houston, along with the Giants, all with A+, and Minnesota and Miami. So, a lot of teams with really good training staffs. No training staff graded out to an F. You had Kansas City at a D-, the Commanders at a D, the Chargers at a C-, the Jets at a B, and up. And then the locker room, you had Vegas with an A+, Dallas, Minnesota, Miami, all with A+, Baltimore. Miami is kind of surprising me. They're actually, this is showing more respect to Miami. Baltimore with an A, New Orleans with an A, Chicago with an A, Seattle with an A-. Same thing with Buffalo. And then the worst locker rooms, the Commanders have the worst locker room, the only team with an F-. And then you do have the Arizona Cardinals with an F. Those teams are at the bottom of every list. The Chiefs, D-, the Chargers, D-, Jacksonville. So I would say Jacksonville is probably the 4th worst team in terms of all these lists, with the Commanders, Cardinals, Chargers being the 3 worst. Cincinnati is struggling a little bit as well. Atlanta, Rams, Broncos, and Steelers there. And then the last category is the travel, so I guess just the overall airplane and stuff like that. The Houston Texans get an A+. They must be, flying around on an Airbus or something. You've got New Orleans, Vegas, both with A+, Detroit, Green Bay, Baltimore, Minnesota, Miami, all with A's. Giants are showing up with A's on a lot of these lists as well. And then for travel, F-, the only team to get that was the Commanders. The Chiefs, surprisingly enough, kind of showing up towards the bottom on a lot of these lists. They get an F. Tampa Bay gets an F. Tennessee gets an F for travel. Indianapolis gets an F. And then Philadelphia with a D on that. So kind of just interesting numbers to look at overall. And then they do kind of have like a overall write-up for how each team did. And this is kind of an interesting thing. It says the Bengals are one of 3 teams to not provide dinner for their players. They are also one of 2 teams that do not provide vitamins, and they are the only team that doesn't provide supplements. Additionally, players feel that like they have some of the smallest hot and cold tubs in the league. I mean, dude, you can't help but laugh. I know it's the NFL, but that's like, are we talking about the definition of a first world problem? My hot tub is too small. Now, I understand it's high standards for NFL. These are world-renowned athletes, but it is still funny to read something like that. They have issues with showers and toilets not working. Jesus, Cincinnati has issues with toilets not working, and they are the only team that does not have outlets in their lock. That's horrible. Yeah, that's bad for an NFL team not to have outlets to charge your phone. So you got to go out from your locker room to charge your phone. That is really inconvenient if every other team has that. The players who responded to the survey also complained that there is nowhere warm and safe for mothers and kids to go during the game because the Bengals do not provide a family room, unlike the majority of teams. So the Bengals getting roasted there in that one. And then this is the Commanders one. The locker room does not have confidence that club owner Dan Snyder is willing to invest to upgrade the facilities. Yeah, I mean, they're trying to force him to sell the team. It is a horrible situation. Players had significantly more concerns with each area of the facility than the player respondents on any other team. For example, they were the team most consistently identified as having an understaffed training room. Players also reported that they have some of the smallest hot and cold tubs for player recovery, and only 35% of players feel like they have enough personal space in their locker rooms. Finally, there are complaints of the lack of warm water and issues with poor drainage in the showers. Only 22% of players feel like they have enough space on the team flights. So, I mean, I would just say the Commanders have FedEx Field as the worst stadium in the NFL. You know, everyone says it, so really doesn't surprise me. Once again, the top three lowest graded teams, the Commanders, Cardinals, and Chargers. That's pretty crazy. The Cardinals are that bad, and then the top three overall teams, Vikings, Dolphins, and the Raiders on that list. So, I mean, we'll see if that has any effect on anything. I just thought it was interesting that they decided to grade everything in terms of the NFL and how each organization runs things. But, guys, that's going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.